Alright, so today I want to take you down one of my favorite camping trips through downtown Wisconsin Dells in Wisconsin. Basically, I've got a 42-mile trip that starts up at Castle Rock Lake, passes down through the river through the Wisconsin Dells, and then continues on down and ends in Portage. It's 42 miles, takes 3 days, 2 nights, and there's one portage halfway through. It's usually a pretty easy river, but there are a couple of tight spots that I'm going to point out to you as we go along. Usually how I do this is I'll go with a group, park boats and gear up at the start with somebody, leave someone behind to watch it, and then drive all the cars to the end in Portage, park in a parking lot, then hire a cab that takes us back up to the start, so that way the boats are at the end waiting for us, all the gear and stuff are up at the start for us to take. Alright, so I'm going to start up with Castle Rock Lake. The launch point is this Castle Rock Dam Bait Shop. $5 per boat launch fee, but basically there's a parking lot here and then a couple of different boat launches for motorboats, and then you can use one for canoes down here. So you put in, usually it winds up being late morning on day one, and then you just kind of start heading south here. The river's got a decent current. Usually if you're paddling hard you can do 4 miles an hour or so without killing yourself. Otherwise I think the river typically flows about 1.5 miles per hour, so if you just want to drift you can a little bit, but you will have to make some mileage at some point here. So as we're kind of heading south, you'll notice there is not a whole lot of bridges or very scenic points. There's a few houses here and there, but they're typically tucked off to the side, so you don't see a ton of them. But just kind of keep heading south here. And then around the 4-mile marker, you start running into some islands. You can go either left or right. Most of these bigger channels are plenty wide, so it's not like one side's going to lead you into a log jam while the other one's going to be completely clear. You can kind of pick and choose a little bit. As you keep going, you're going to come up to your first point of interest, which is going to be this Road 82 with a big bridge. That's right around the 7-mile marker. So then as you keep heading south here, it's just kind of more of the same, where it's a big river and you go in between islands and whatnot. You'll pass a merge with the Lemonweir River. And then keeps going. And you'll see there's this campground and a couple of boat launches and things like that as you keep going. Now, one important thing I'll mention to you right here, this stretch right here around the 9 to 11 mile marker, that's actually a canyon. There's not any, beaches or anywhere to get out at. There's this one boat launch and that's it. But that's a rock canyon, surrounded by 50-foot high cliffs. And then as you keep coming out here, you'll notice there's a little bit of a shadow right there. That's actually another really high cliff. There's a few houses that are like parked up there, but you can get out and go for a hike if you've got time. You just kind of keep going downriver, and then you'll start passing into some of these islands. Now the Dutchman Islands are where I usually recommend camping. Basically, if I zoom it out here a little bit, notice how you've got this chain of islands up here, then there's this big lake, and then if you keep going past this Narrows area, there's the Wisconsin Dells, the downtown district. Basically, your last chance for good camping is up here in the Dutchman Islands. There's nothing on this lake, and there's nothing through these canyons, nor is there really anything in downtown Wisconsin Dells. So if you're going to go camping, it's going to be on a sandbar, and your best place is going to be somewhere in this chain of islands. Kind of just depends on the height of the river and how deep everything is. If the river's lower, you'll see more sand. If the river's higher, you'll see less. But you can kind of pick and choose wherever you want to go here. There's a ton of sandbars and beaches, so just find something good up there. Now, once you get into this lake, you got to be real careful. Notice how it's at 14.8 miles, and then if you cut straight across, it jumps to about 16.4. So it's just over 1.5 miles to cut straight through the lake. There are tons of Wisconsin duck boats and speedboats that go through there, so rather than cut straight across, what I recommend doing is kind of hugging the edge here, so that way you're out of harm's way. It adds on some distance, but it's the safer bet. Now, once you get into this narrows area right here, this is basically all canyon. So you got to be real careful to avoid the speed boats and duck boats. They are supposed to go slow through here to not generate wake, but they don't always do that, and as the wake bounces off the rock walls of the canyon, that can get very treacherous, so you got to be careful. Now, once you get to this point, there's the quick route through the narrows right here, but that's actually very dangerous because it's so skinny there is not enough room for speedboats and canoes to get past each other. So what I recommend doing is going around this Black Hawk Island like such. A lot safer. It's actually a little bit more scenic. So just do that instead. But then as you come back out here, the river's still a bit wide, so you can still pass some of these jet boat docks. And then you'll come into the downtown Wisconsin Dells area, pass through a few boat launches over here, and then you'll come into the downtown area. Now, this is a big dam, and you can't go through it. You will die. So I'm going to show you the portage now. Basically, as soon as you go under this bridge, there's a boat launch down here. So you take out right here, and then there's 4 stretches of this portage. First stretch is going to be up through this gravel hill. It's a very steep hill and very gravelly, so you got to bring everything up to the top where the road is. Next, there's this electrical facility. You can't cut through here anyway, you have to go around it. So to go around it, you basically wind up doing this. You can follow the street or drag boats through the grass, but that's all fenced in and you have to pass it. So you come up here, and then there's a little path that goes into a little bit of a parking lot down here. You can't see it a ton from this angle, but it's basically marked in through the trees. So you jump in here, and then there's a hill that kind of leads you past a parking lot, and it takes you back down to the beach, like such. So it may not show it, but most of the river right here is lined in walls, rock walls and canyons, so it's there's not a lot of places to just get out and go around. You kind of have to follow this path, but that's how you portage through downtown Wisconsin Dells, and you can see 21.1 or 21.9 miles, so you're right about halfway through. So usually that's a good place to have lunch on day 2, and then you jump back in the water and keep going. And it goes, once you get out of Wisconsin Dells, it gets very nature-like again. You kind of pass through some rock formations. There are duck boat tours that do come through here, so you have to be careful. But since the river's a bit wider, you've got more room to move around. So you'll kind of come down here, make a few curves. You'll pass the River's Edge Resort right here, which they've got ice cream and a shop, so if you need to fill up on water or something, you can. Otherwise, you kind of come around this bend. There's this very cool rock formation right here, which you will not miss, because you'll pass right through it. And then also right there, let me see if I can zoom it in here. Yes, so you can see the rocks a little bit. So what I actually recommend doing as you come through here is to go this specific way. There's actually a little cave right here that you can pass through. Depends on the water level. As long as it's not too high, you can get through. But yes, there's a very cool cave there. Just watch out for bats. So zooming back out now, you kind of keep moving along the river here. You'll have some houses on the left, but then you kind of keep going. And you start getting a bit more rural again. Now right around here we're at the 26-mile marker, so depending on how many miles you're doing, you're starting to look for camp. There's plenty of sandbars once again, so you can basically just stay at whichever sandbar you'd like. Pass a few islands, you can see there's some sandy beaches, but not a whole lot of bridges or other points of interest. You can see the Fisherman's Luck Bar from the river, but yeah, right there around the 30-mile marker, so you got about 12 to go. Usually when I'm camping, I wind up finding some sandbars right around here. Just kind of depends on which way you go, but there's so many options. It's not terribly hard to find camping out there. But you just kind of keep working your way through. You can kind of go either which way on these islands. The river just kind of zigzags back and forth a bit through here. You got the larger Pine Islands as we pass the state natural area. Now, one thing I will point out through here is it's not terribly far from 9094, so you can hear some street traffic towards the end. Yeah, just kind of keep working your way through here as I jump about a half a mile at a time. But eventually the river kind of hooks through here, and then you'll start to see the bridges off in the distance. That is going to be downtown Portage where your end is. So once you get Route 39, that's 42 miles on the dot. You'll go a little bit further into downtown Portage. So I guess it's closer to 43 miles. Now, let me show you the best takeout point. You'll stay to the left of this big island. And then there's a very limited boat launch here. Basically pull up right there, and there's a parking lot right there, and you can pull your stuff up and kind of go up over this levee. Right by Tamarack Pizza. Now, this parking lot right here, you can't actually park at overnight. So when you're parking your cars here for the 3 days, where you can actually park for free is there is this public parking lot right here at Cook and Adams. It's kind of in the downtown Portage area. They used to charge $5 per car for a parking permit that was good for up to a week. Just in the last year, they've stopped doing that, and you can just park there. But I usually call their police department in advance and just give them a heads up that, you know, hey, these cars are going to be parked here for a weekend. Here's the plate numbers, just so they don't tow it. They shouldn't tow it anyway, but it's my nightmare to get to the end of a trip and realize that my car's gone. So you can park right there, and then it's about a 5 or 10 minute walk from the parking lot. You can kind of go through the downtown area and then just walk over here to where it is. So about 44 miles. That's the Wisconsin River through the Dells area. It's a highly recommended trip as you get to see lots of canyons and rock formations. So if anything, it's one of my favorites in Wisconsin. I totally encourage you to check it out. Enjoy.